Hi everyone. It's December 26th and today is the first day of the second quarter of the current moon. So right now the moon is half illuminated and it's growing. So last quarter we were in a waxing crescent and now we're going into what's called the waxing gibbous stage, where the moon is going to become more than half illuminated. But right now, today, we're in this even point. We're in this even point where when you look up at the moon, you see it's half illuminated, it's half full. And this day, as we move into the second quarter, can be compared to, in our annual cycle, it can be compared to the spring equinox, when we have an equal amount of night and day during the springtime, and we're going into spring. And that's in the northern hemisphere, that's in March. So right now with this moon, the moon is coming up in the middle of the day. It's coming up at noon, around noon. Today it's coming up a little bit before noon, and then it will set at about midnight. So as you can see, it's like half. It's kind of like similar to that equinox in the sun cycle, where the sun is equally in the sky half the day and it's dark half the day. And then from here on out, as always in the moon cycle, every day the moon will come up and will set 30 to 60 minutes later. So the moon is constantly coming up and setting later and later every day until it completes the whole cycle and gets back to where it started. So last week was the first quarter, and it was like winter, right? The first quarter is similar to winter, whereas the second quarter that we're going into now is similar to springtime. So whereas last week we might have felt kind of like winter, that sort of hibernation feeling, the moon is last week it was less than half illuminated. So there was sort of more unconscious energy than conscious energy, kind of like in the winter when things are more underground, less is visible. That's the week we just came out of, and now we're going into the springtime. There's more light, there's more conscious energy. You might feel a little bit more energy, period, overall. It's like waking up. It's like waking up a little bit, kind of like you might wake up after a hibernation. And so we'll be in the second quarter phase until January 3rd for about 1 week. On January 3rd, and that is the next full moon. You might find this week that you have a little bit more awareness. If you set, or a little bit more ability to bring into consciousness whatever it was that you set your intention for, if you set an intention during that first quarter. You might find that any intuitions you had, or any internal messaging or senses that you had now this week, might now start to connect to outward actions. Might connect to moving it out into the world. Just like in the spring, the seed comes from under the ground and pushes up through the earth, and now it's visible and seen, and moving into the external world. Now in previous videos, I've talked about the yin and the yang creation cycle, and I've talked about it like an infinity symbol, where one side of the infinity symbol is the yang and the other side is the yin, and how we go into the yang in outward action, and then we come back to the yin to reflect and go inside and get intuitive inspiration and then come out. And how the spring and summer are the yang side and the winter and fall are the yin side. So if we apply that cycle to this moon cycle, where we are right now on this day of going into larger illumination of the moon at this sort of spring equinox, is that we are coming out of the yin into the yang. So spring is where the outward starts to happen, which is why that ability to have a little bit more consciousness, a little bit more awareness and ability to go into action with our intentions, a little bit more energy toward that outward manifestation. If you're journeying with me on this intention to have more connection with the moon and kind of follow the cycle, One of the things I've noticed is how important and how helpful it is to make a visual connection with the moon when it's possible. So right now it's getting easier and easier to do that because the moon is in the sky more of the night. So you have ample opportunity to see it. The moon is also large enough that you might be able to see it before sundown. So you might make set an intention to make a visual connection with the moon each day. It's great to set a time to do that. So for example, right after dinner, if you take an evening walk, making a connection with the moon, or right before you go to bed, you just step outside and look up. Right now we are in a time, depending on where you live, where it might be difficult. Right now I am in Illinois visiting family for the holidays. I'm normally in Arizona where it's much clearer, the skies are much clearer. But in Illinois we haven't seen the moon for 3 days because it has been 100% overcast. So there's been no visual connection for 3 days. And I'm really noticing the difference. So if you do have the opportunity, no matter where you are, if the sky is clear, to take a look at it, it can make a difference. So I'm wishing you well on this second quarter.